and 1857.1 Middlesex Street. Per order of the Land Court, the Lowell Planning Board, we review the application of Middlesex Partner Limited and Lexi Development for special permit review concerning driveway length in conjunction with the development of the property located at 1881, 1883, and 1857.1 Middlesex Street. The project includes the demolition of the existing building on site and construction of 128 housing units and 4 buildings on a 402,930 square foot lot with associated parking and landscaping. A special permit is sought to allow access to the site via a 426-foot-long driveway through a curb cut located at 1881/1883 Middlesex Street, across from Dingwell Street. The current petition is being heard for special permit review under 6.7.2 of the Lowell Zoning Code Ordinance. At our last meeting on March 5th, the applicant was before the board, and at that point in time, we were informed that one of our board members would not be present this evening, and the applicant would thereby request that the matter be put over till we had a full board. At that last board meeting, at the suggestion of all the planning board members, we suggested that we send out a letter to all the abutters who would have received notice from the butters list. At that point in time, I know Division of Planning and Development, Mr. Proakis at that time said they would mail out that notice. Therefore, the neighbors hopefully would not have to come down to find out that there had been requests for continuance. So we did send those letters out. We also made communication live that night on the viewing from the meeting, that if anybody was watching, if they could please spread the word that we would consider having the meeting continued till April 2nd, because the applicant would be requesting that would have a full board matter. And also, as requested by the court that was sent back to us in the land court, the judge there ordered that the matter go before the full 5-member board. And the reason that it has to be before the 5-member board would be the matter as directed by the land court. Therefore, knowing that we could not entertain the order of the land court in tonight's business, there was a motion by the board or agreement at the time that we consider continue it tonight when the matter came before us. So saying that, I'll turn it over for the applicant who what we knew, he said he'd be present here tonight to answer any questions and to address the board. So at this point in time, I'll turn the matter over to the applicant. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, James Flood, 81 Bridge Street, representing the applicant. As the chairman stated, the order from the land court did indicate that the matter should be heard before a full board of 5 members, and there's only 4 present. So I think the purpose of my appearance is tonight to consent on behalf of the applicant to that continuance till April 2nd, so that you can have that in your record. So we have no problem with it.
Thank you, Councilor. I appreciate that. I'm just going to ask if anybody here is in attendance in regards to this matter, if anybody wants to be heard on this matter. Anybody here in the audience want to be heard on this matter? Hearing none. Any questions of the board? Any of the board members have any questions on the matter? No. Okay. We would consider a motion to continue it to April 2nd for the special permit public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to postpone the public hearing for Middlesex Street until April 2nd.
Motion on the floor.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Motion to continue has been granted. The vote is allowed 4-0. Thank you very much, Council, for coming down.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your input. The next matter that we have on the agenda tonight is on the new business. It's a pre-application session. The following individuals have requested for the planning board to provide a preliminary review of their proposed project on the address listed below. These are not public hearings. Each project will require a public hearing as noted below. The project address is, the applicant is Bell Atlantic Mobile of Massachusetts Corporation. The project is a proposed telecommunications facility at 92 Bolt Street. The zoning is light industrial, and it will be requiring a site plan review. Can we hear the case for the applicants, please?
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Earl Duvall, and I am counsel for Verizon Wireless. Along with me this evening is Attorney Greg Mercier of my office, and also I have with me David Tivnan from Verizon Wireless.
I'm sorry, Council, can I have your last name again? I didn't catch it.
David Tivnan, Tivnan.
No, and your last name?
My name is Earl Duval.
Oh, thank you, Earl. Appreciate it.
D-U-V-A-L.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry for that. Go ahead, please.
Oh, nope, thank you. And I guess this is somewhat different for me, although it's not a public hearing. The only ones in the audience are with me.
Yeah, we had a couple of things
and
on the
that's
agenda,
nice.
but they were continued, so you're lucky if the public hearing went forward, you'd be here for a little while. So you're fortunate you picked a nice night.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, thank you. Well, I guess before perhaps I give maybe just a brief overview, I do have some additional documents. I'm not sure what it is you have there, but I have the copy of the initial letter, the draft site plan, and then I have just a few preliminary photos of the site in which we flew a balloon. So if I may approach, I can
sure, yes,
bring
you may.
those to you.
We have a few things in our packet, excuse me, while you're approaching. One would be the March 8th letter sent to Mr. Erickson, which was signed by yourself, Counselor. Thank you. Then we have some plans in our packet. It looks like we have sheets T1, C1, and C2. And, okay, yep, we have, oh, okay, this is an updated one to March 19th, and then the photos, okay.
I think I have the same.
Okay. I think that what we don't have is, what's new is the photos, correct, okay.
Okay. Well, I guess I would ask, as this is a preliminary site plan review and somewhat informal, I'm not quite sure how it is you'd like me to proceed. I can give a brief overview of the site plan and
Sure, that would
and
be,
go through
yes,
the,
if you want to just basically, especially for those who are watching at home, just tell us basically what you're requesting, that you're going to be coming before the board for when you come in for the site plan. Let us know basically what the overview is, what you're requesting has to be done. If you need any variances from this board, because I believe you still have to go before the zoning board of appeals for the special permit.
right,
Right.
we'll need both site plan approval and special permit.
Right.
And-
So basically, if you want to just give us a brief overview
Okay, well,
of the presentation, and if we have any questions from there, the board members will take it from there. And then, as a result of any of our questions, if you have any further, you can go from there, okay?
okay.
Thank you.
Well, as a brief overview, it's a proposed telecommunications facility to be located at 92 Bolt Street here in Lowell. And the proposal is for Verizon Wireless to construct a 90-foot monopole along with an equipment shelter with dimensions of 12 feet by 30 feet in size. The proposed equipment shelter will be located within a compound, a fenced compound, with dimensions of 22 feet by 55 feet. Verizon would propose to install its standard 12-panel array at approximately 88 feet above ground level. If I could bring your, attention to sheet C2, and we can just briefly look at the elevation plan. Again, as you can see, from the compound, 22 by 50, proposed monopole structure. Within the equipment compound, proposed equipment cabinet for telco and demarc board. Proposed utilities would run to the existing utility pole. The standard enclosure would be the 6-foot chain link fence with 3 barbed wire security strings along the top. The structure, as pursuant to the ordinance, would facilitate Verizon Wireless's location and one other co-locator, as it's under 100 feet. Let's see. If we look to the photo simulations, I think they might be in the first picture is looking, from Bolt Street towards the building, and that picture represents a balloon that was flown at 90 feet, which is the proposed height of the monopole. The second photo is looking towards the tower from Washer Street, and if you look to the center of the photo, you can see the balloon. And again, these are all preliminary photos and preliminary drawings for the facility. The third picture, again, is looking towards the tower location from Bolt Street, near the intersection of Bolt and Washer. I think that's the view looking, from the east. And then the fourth photograph is looking towards the facility from the lower end, or the lower end of the parcel, which is, I think, Bolt Street ends and then it becomes Easement Way, and that's looking to the north. I think that would be just sort of a brief overview of what the facility would entail. As you note from the setback requirements, I guess maybe in a little bit more detail, the setback requirement from the tower is at least the height of the facility. As you look on the site plans, which is sheet C1, the distance to the left there is 90 feet, and then 170 feet to the rear line, 200 feet to the right, and 135 from the line closest to Bolt Street. So I think that the proposed location of the facility, as it's located on the property, would satisfy any lot line issues that we might have, or restrictions. With regards to access, it's in an existing, tucked into the existing corner against the facility in the parking lot. With regards to any traffic, there's minor visitation to the site, and perhaps once a month for routine maintenance, or for emergency issues. It's an unmanned, site. Most any issues or problems can be detected, remotely by Verizon Wireless. I understand as part of the site plan, as part of the special permit, that I'll be submitting a significant amount of documentation with regards to need and coverage and existing or other facilities in the area, which don't exist for this. Wouldn't provide us with the coverage or satisfy any of the coverage needs. There's the one tower that shows up in the photograph. I think it was in the second photograph, which that facility is will be preparing or providing documentation to demonstrate that that structure is not available or structurally available to house any of Verizon Wireless's equipment, and then there's no space, ground space at all for that. And certainly I'll have an engineer along with me to to testify to any of that. I think that's maybe a large overview, and then maybe a little bit more detail. If you have any questions.
Anybody else with you want to speak before we ask any questions? I don't know if anybody else has anything to say, or they feel you covered it appropriately. Okay. Just make sure if anybody else wants to say anything, they may. So obviously, it sounds like by what your presentation is, you've read our section in Code 7.6.
Yes.
Because I know a lot of things that you've mentioned about so far would be that you need the engineer to sign off on certain things. also talks about the other location.
Yes,
And,
within 5 miles. And
Right, okay. So, obviously, those would be a lot of things that we'd be considering and listen to when we come in for the public hearing. Talks about a lot of things that the board has to find. And,
would those, if I may, would
Sure.
those all be, would you want me to submit all those for the public hearing for site plan?
yes,
Yes, okay.
okay. So basically, I mean, you know,
Thank you.
there's certain things that we have to make findings on. Let's see. Was a couple of things that I highlighted when I was reviewing the 7.6 area. And it talked, you know, I think one of them was you talked about the tower and the frequency coverage and how far away from, it talks about this second location, certain things that we have to find. And one was about the engineer. Then it also talks about the height, which I think you're aware of because you mentioned that, in the landscaping. And also you mentioned it would have the security fencing. I think you brought that out. You mentioned the barbed wire because that's right there in that section in code. Some
Yes.
type of equipment with appropriate anti-climb controls. And they give an example of the barbed wire. And I think one other thing, just when it talks about the design and review of the location, and also it also mentions about the abandonment. Have you read that part of the section?
Yes, I have.
Okay. The cost about the disposal, abandonment of the communication, if you're left, and how we'd have to have another special hearing to consider all that. So I know it says that there might be some type of surety put up, and it talks about a letter of credit or a passbook if need be, if that removal had to be done. So those would be some of the things that we'd be looking at, obviously, under this code here. The one question I have is, I went down there yesterday, and when I pulled into 92, I believe, let's refer to your first picture. When I'm familiar with the site, 'cause I knew when I went there yesterday, when I went off Mothercroft, I had to sit there for a little while because I had a train coming by, so I had a chance to view it from all around. And then when I was leaving, another train was going by, so I had to sit there. So I had a good chance to review it pretty well, waiting for the train. So when you pull in at 92, there's, on the L there, I know there's a couple of other businesses there. I think one of it was, over to the right was Stephen Brothers Services. The other sign said Mill City Paintball, and the other one was Catalog Source, Beer Ground Solutions. That's all in the corner. Then you have the loading trucks. How much, and I know that whole building went over, it's, what, Abercroft, and then there was a bunch of trucks over there to the left. How much of the building would you be using?
None of it.
Okay,
We're gonna have a shelter outside the building next to the base of the tower, and then it's 22 by 55.
okay. Could you just come up to the mic when you speak, because that way people know. So I know when I'm trying to locate
Sure.
what you're putting on, I sat there, and I looked at that, and then I looked all the way down to my left, was a whole big development, which was enclosed by the next picture here that shows the vinyl fencing. So it
Right.
wasn't exactly,
When you're looking at the building, you'll see, I think it's 2 loading docks. We're gonna be just to the left of the leftmost loading dock. This whole facility is gonna be outside of the existing building. So within the 22 by 55-foot compound will be the base of the tower and our equipment shelter.
so when I pull in there and look at that and see those other places, where would the tower be going in regards to that building, in front of it or behind it?
In front.
Okay, so where those loading docks are now on picture, on where, picture one where I see the balloon?
Right.
Okay, so I see the truck there, and then over to the left, I see a couple more loading docks, would be right in front of that area there?
That's correct.
Okay, because I read 92, and that building is pretty long. And I
Right.
know that I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but Abercroft is on both sides of the street.
Right.
And then when you cut into this one, it's across the street from, I believe it was, Greener Landscaping.
Correct.
So when I looked at it, I knew it was all 92, but I just couldn't focus whereabouts it was going, because it's a pretty big building.
It is.
So you'd be putting, and I noticed on your plan, you said it'd be in front of the loading docks, but I did see quite a few loading docks. I wasn't,
Yeah.
that was one of my questions. I knew the address, but I couldn't point where exactly it would be.
Yeah, actually, if you see the picture, the blue awning,
Right,
we're gonna be just to the left of that,
okay, to the left of that.
abutting the building.
Okay. Oh, I see, okay.
It would be representative of where the balloon is flown.
Okay,
Is
so it'd
where
be in
the
front of the
structure-
building, to the left of the awning, and it would go up as high as that balloon.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, okay, that was my question, and, yep.
Do we reference that on?
Like I say, when you come down there, it's at the, as you, one of your pictures said, it was at the bottom of, was it Washer Street? And then you can see that, the fence, the beige fence with the white trim, when I think the third picture is a little further up, one from the site. And then obviously the other one with a big, looks like a propane tank, that's past your site on the left, which comes down to the end.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I can tell these pictures were taken in advance and not over the weekend, because there's not as much snow there. Obviously, you had it ready
Yes.
before the meeting when you gave it to us for the submittal. Okay. That was the main question I had, is exactly where it was being located. I know
Would
that
you want?
92 is a big building.
Would it be helpful for us to reference any of those dimensions on the plan? I know that, there's one line that references, 90 feet to the lot line from the
Yeah, I think,
tower.
I mean, when you try to, because even by looking at it, I wasn't 100% sure, and I think when we come to a public hearing, some people might have that same question, to know exactly, because when you go down there and look at 92, I mean, it's a pretty big building.
Right.
And I looked over the whole area, and I just wasn't exactly sure where it'd be. And I think a lot of times, by looking at the plans ahead of time, if we know exactly where it is on that, because I know it said in the parking lot adjacent to the loading docks, and there's quite a few loading docks down there. So that was just one consideration I had, because pretty much knew it was on that site, but it wasn't exactly where. So that was one of the questions I had. Any other board members have any questions?
Thank you.
I have a couple, Mr. Chairman, if I may, just briefly. Photograph number 2, you mentioned there's a tower there that's not available for use by Verizon. Do you happen to know what the height of that tower is?
I don't know the height of the tower, but I've been trying to get on it for about 5 years. I originally contacted Media One when they had equipment on it, and I believe that equipment is now off it. But they don't, now that it's Comcast, I contacted them as well. As far as the height goes, I do not know, to answer your question directly.
Okay.
I believe it's approximately 80 feet, I believe. But I think that structure's coming down. It's,
That tower?
Right. It wouldn't be structurally strong enough to support our equipment. There is no ground space for us. And it wouldn't pass the existing bylaw to be rebuilt.
Okay.
It's right on the abutters line, on a,
Do you know if there's another existing tower within sight view of the proposed tower that you have?
there's a small tower on the railroad track that doesn't have ground space either, and that's very short, it's probably 50 feet. Other than that, there are not, to my knowledge, towers in the area that would support our equipment.
All right, and do you have, or will you have for, when you go to ZBA, any computer-generated photos to show what the tower's gonna look like?
Yes.
Yeah.
They do that after the balloon test. The balloon test was done last week.
Right.
We're trying to get the material in here for this evening. With that balloon, they can actually base the drawings off of
Right.
that.
Yeah, those are helpful to us, so if
Right,
you can
those are
get
on
those
their
to
way.
us as well. I notice you're asking for waivers for snow storage and dumpster, because you won't need them on the site, correct?
Right.
Okay. I have no other questions, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Rich, any questions?
Just, there's no traffic in and out of here of any significance, is there?
I'm sorry?
There's no traffic in and out of here of any
No,
significance?
there would be potentially a site visit once a month for routine maintenance and in the event that there's an emergency at the site.
Okay, and is
no.
it manned or it's unmanned?
No, unmanned.
Yeah, okay, that's all I have.
Jerry,
Thank
any
you.
questions? No? You all set?
We will, when we put together the photo simulations, we will put the, proposed monopole with the antenna array, and I'll do a photo locator, and we can come in and I'll, be able to tell where each of those are, along with the propagation maps for coverage, and another map with all the other facilities, within 5 miles, I think is the requirement,
Yeah, I believe it is 5 miles. You're right, Counselor.
Yeah.
Yep.
so.
I believe it's 5 miles, I'm sorry, yep.
Yep.
I think that's what it has under the zoning. Yeah, because obviously usually the picture, I think will enlighten what we're looking at, and anybody in that neighborhood who has any questions, I would obviously see in the picture, makes it a lot easier than just saying, well, there's the balloon, and what's it actually visual gonna be. I know right behind your site is indicated was the railroad tracks, and I noticed it wasn't, I mean, you won't be adding any additional traffic due to the fact that it's gonna be unmanned, and there won't be anybody visiting your site. So that won't be a major concern, the traffic issue. I have no other further questions. Nobody else?
No, I'm all
Okay.
set.
Thank you for your input, and hopefully we look forward to seeing you at the site plan.
Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
your
Good
time.
luck.
Good night.
Good night.
Moving along on the agenda, we have another matter under old business, which is a bond release of Kelly Circle with Manor View Crossing. The board will discuss the release of the bond money being held for the Kelly Circle Manor View Crossing subdivision. James, I believe you said you might be able to have an update for us at this point in time, but the engineer, I knew when the matter went out, we didn't have that confirmation as of yet, but the information you sent us, it said hopefully you'd have more information for tonight's meeting on that.
Correct, yes. I spoke with Joe Cady in the engineer's office. I had been speaking with him last week. The project is complete by the city standards. He's just looking, and he believes he has them in his office, the as-built, which is the last requirement of fully accepting a street. He just hasn't located them yet, and he's also contacted the engineers of the project, but he is very aware that the project is complete to date, and it's fully complete. What I would request is that the board maybe approve the release of the bond subject to the as-built being found by the engineer's office, so that we make sure we actually have those as-built in hand prior to releasing the funds. He does recall receiving them, he's just not sure where they are. So it could just be in the office, he's just not positive where they are, or he could just be thinking of a different as-built plan, and therefore the as-built for this project are on their way. So I just request from the board to make a vote to release, if they are comfortable, to release the remaining funds, subject to the as-built being found.
So basically a conditional
located.
release.
Right,
Okay.
correct,
To make sure everybody's covered.
correct.
Right, okay. Any board members have any questions in regards to the request to release the bond as a conditional release?
I have one question. As I remember this project, wasn't the developer gonna put like a stone entrance into Kelly Circle to kind of offset it from the driveway to Duville? That has
I-
not been done, and I think I remember that as part of the original plan.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I don't recall seeing that on the plans. I wasn't here, obviously, when it was approved, but I don't recall seeing that on the plans. I can check that, and that can be another condition of the approval if that's what,
Yeah,
if the board
you
is
make it a
comfortable with that.
condition. I know there was neighborhood concern about that. And
I would like to note, or just remind the board, that the Duville Manor, as part of their project, is proposing to reposition their entrance into the site.
maybe. all
So
right,
that
yeah.
will also go a long way to further separate those two, because they're actually proposing to move it over
Yeah.
15, 20 feet or so.
That's right,
So,
change it,
um,
of course.
I think they came in we came in once, then they came in a second time. Don't you remember,
Right.
Jerry?
They came in for an amendment.
Because I mean,
they
one of
would
the
have been
concerns
allowed-
was, I think even some people made testimony tonight at the hearing was, they were so close, some people would go up Kelly Circle and not into Duville. And we wanted to divide it up somehow. I think Duville wanted to work it out one way. I think they were going to even change the street sign to put it on the right-hand side instead of the left-hand side, so more people wouldn't get on that site to begin with.
Correct.
And I know when Mr. Flood came back again, they talked about changing the entrance a little bit more. I think, James, that's what you're referring to at this point.
Right.
Right? And they want to do over the entranceway to
Correct.
separate that, so there'll be no confusion of the two of them together.
Correct. Duville
Is
is
that what you're
proposing to
referring
move.
Rich, I think?
Yeah.
To move their
Just
entrance
to
Came back a second time,
differentiate the
right.
entrance.
Just regarding the Kelly Circle sign, we did look into moving that signage. Unfortunately, there was some underground electrical work by the corner from the corner that we're hoping to move the Kelly Circle sign to. So what we had the applicant do is, or the developer do, is move it as close or as far away from Duville as possible and as close to the entrance as possible. But unfortunately, we couldn't move it to the other side of the entrance. There was something underground there. Our engineer's office was uncomfortable with moving the sign over, but we did try to do that. Fortunately, Duville has taken it upon their own task to move their entrance 15, 20 feet. I'm not exactly sure how far over, but 15, 20 feet roughly, which will go a long way to separating those entrances. I myself have actually turned down Kelly Circle by accident, going to Duville before, so it's common across all spectrums of.
Yeah, I believe, like I said, it was when Duville came back, after we did Kelly Circle, that was one of the questions. I remember Mr. Flood said they'd move it away. You remember that, Jerry? Correct, yes. Yeah. I think that was just one of the concerns that neighbors had, and I think it was
Yeah,
basically one of the only few concerns that the neighborhood had.
Exactly. As a matter of fact, I think we had put it in writing as well. And And I have to credit Duville because they took it upon themselves to come
I think
back.
once they
and-
heard there was some concerns about it, they took it upon themselves to move it over because they didn't want any problems going in when they put that new addition there on.
Correct.
All right, so the question is whether we want to give a conditional release.
Yeah, I'd make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we do authorize release of the $15,000 conditioned upon locating the as-built plan, and if it turns out we don't have it, to get a copy of it from the developer so that we have it on file. And also, as Mr. Lockhart said, just confirming that the entrance has been completed as according to the plan.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and second. This for discussion. So if they don't find the as-built, they can always bring the matter back before us, James? If
Correct.
that's okay, the other board members, just bring it back for clarification, and we'll take a further vote on it?
I will, yes.
So if that condition has not been met, we can always bring it back to our attention in a future date.
Correct.
Okay. Hearing that, motion's been made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes. So the matter is to release the bond on conditional approval. The vote is 4-0 in favor.
For my own clarification, Mr. Chairman, if I do find if the as-built are located and the final product is actually built as is, I'm willing to go forward with, I'm
Release.
able to go forward with just releasing the final funds. Okay.
Okay. The only thing I'd suggest then is, just give us a quick note, either by communication, either way. So
Okay.
we know, whatever's easier for you. So the board members know one way or another.
Okay.
To
I'm
finalize it, then we're not looking for it in the future date.
Okay. I'm hoping that things can get finalized tomorrow.
Sure. If you want to communicate to
hopefully I
us
can email you
somehow
tomorrow.
this week on that, then we'll know that it's not coming back in the future.
Great.
If, then we'll know that closure's put to the matter. If not, we'll entertain, coming back before us to act on the matter one way or another to tie it up.
Okay.
Okay?
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Moving along, we had some notices from the budding towns. Any of the board members have any concerns with the notices that we received from the local towns?
Make a motion to place on file if there's no
Second the motion.
Motion made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes yes. Matters placed on fire. Any general correspondences from any of the board members? Hearing none, we'll move along. As indicated in our packet, we have no zoning board of appeal legal notices to consider tonight because of the fact of the timing of the two meetings. We'll be getting them at the next meeting, so we have none of those in our file tonight. So our next meeting will be for April 2nd, where I believe we have like three public hearings?
Yeah.
Whether we continue
we
last meeting
have,
tonight?
correct. We have two new ones. I was waiting until the end of last week to hear final. I was just waiting on one minor thing. I was actually trying to contact one of the applicants for, there's a repetitive petition.
That we
It's
had
the-
before that we continued, right, on
Right.
March 5th?
Well, there's a new repetitive petition. They
Okay,
submitted
okay.
on time. I was just trying to contact the applicant to get him the legal notice to send out to abutters. And it just came down to the wire whereby, it's part of the process whereby I send the legal notice to the applicant and they prepare the mailing for abutters. And it was just taking me a while to get in contact with him. So I wasn't sure if we were going to go forward with April 2nd, because if we didn't contact the abutters, then we'd have to
No,
push
the
it
next
off,
meeting. Okay.
obviously. I was able to get a hold of him on Friday, which wasn't enough time. It's for Branch Street,
Okay.
I believe.
Right. That was the one that was in before us, and we referred to the zoning board of appeals to come back
Right.
before us, right?
So the zoning board of appeals has voted to grant the repetitive petition, meaning they found material and substantial change. The next step is that the planning board must also find the repetitive petition, must grant, and then it goes back to the ZBA for a second round of formal approvals.
Hearings, yeah.
There's also the proposed zoning amendments and changes in front of the city council that are regarding various amendments, including some deck, rear yard setbacks. You'll get a full copy of those materials shortly, so you can review them. It was discussed at the zoning subcommittee a few weeks back, and the city council referred it to public hearing at their last meeting last week. So I was able to get it in on the April 2nd meeting, and we had enough time to do so. And I will try to get those changes to you as soon as I can put together the packet. The formal actual write-up, I mean, is essentially what I'm waiting for from the law department.
Now, I noticed there was the zoning subcommittee had a meeting last Tuesday. I was unable to get there, but by the time I got home, I did catch the end of it viewing on the TV, and Jerry, you were there, and Steve was there, and I guess they dropped a couple of matters, and I know as planning board members, both of you had some concerns and some questions, and they continue that matter over to a 3-week date, is it, with it, Jerry?
They did April 3rd
Okay.
is the next meeting, zoning
So
subcommittee
I
meeting.
know they adopted 2 matters, or a couple of matters that they were gonna refer to the
April 3rd.
council. Right. I know they adopted a few matters that we could continue to the council, but I guess they were talking about some other matters in regards to, I think Mr. Prowaker was the one who showed a slide film presentation when I caught when I come in the house to watch the end of it, and those matters will be ongoing because they felt there wasn't enough time to address it before the council meeting made it.
Exactly.
Came into this room to do the council meeting. So if anybody, the next meeting is April 3rd, which is the subcommittee meeting on the zoning, which will be in this room here on the night after our next planning board meeting, which will be April 3rd at 5:30, I believe it was, Jerry, is that right? Okay.
Correct, yes, Mr. Chairman.
So I know we received some information on that. They adopted a couple of the matters. And then when the zoning comes back to us, James, we're gonna do individual hearings, or are they requesting that we do a combined hearing as we've done on some of them in the past? Do you know? Or that
We're-
hasn't been determined yet, if you know.
Right now, as it stands, we're doing, as the city council, the zoning subcommittee, and city council get through various zoning proposed changes. Some of them are going to be packaged together. For example, what's coming on April 2nd is a package of the very first round of the zoning subcommittee meeting. That will be at a planning board meeting
Okay.
with the idea that the following evening, the city council will have their public hearing. As we move forward, I'm not sure how
You'll
it's
combine them or
exactly
not?
going
Okay.
to be handled. They may be combined. I think we're trying to work out the timing so that there doesn't need to be a combined public hearing,
I
so
know-
that we can have a meeting on Monday, for example, for planning board, and then the city council Tuesday or the following Tuesday.
I believe there was some reference whether we were gonna do them together or we're gonna do them separately, but obviously, we'll deal with that when it comes in,
Right.
because I know sometimes we have done them in the past, and sometimes we just do them separately.
There will likely be a number of packages of proposed changes.
Because basically coming in like in phases almost.
Right, exactly. As we go through the proposed changes, there's the first round that will be heard by the board on April 2nd. There were fairly minor changes. Some things that were just brought up by the building department or by the planning department, others that were brought up, for example, by the Pawtucket Neighborhood Group, that we really have been meaning to get through for about a year now. It's just, we just haven't had the time to, or we wanted to package them together. As we move forward, we're getting into some more of the substantive changes that will require more review time, and that's also why we're trying to include the board in this as much as possible as well for your review, and having you come to the subcommittee meetings obviously goes a long way as well. And this is where I'm just not sure what the final time frame will be, just because I'm just not sure how long the discussions will last on particular.
Because I believe where they left
Subjects.
off on the subcommittee, and Jerry, correct me on this, because you were there for the whole matter, and I just got the last 20 minutes on the TV, was a new area which was lower than special permit, but higher than site plan, and that was gonna include creating another city board, and they'd have to have approval by that board as well as our board, correct?
It was to address the.
I think there was a certain name on that, what they calling it?
Right, neighborhood character special permit was part of that, and there was a neighborhood,
Right.
it was basically a design review board.
Design and review board, right.
Yeah, and it's really comprised of individuals from the planning department. It really is to incorporate the design guidelines that the planning department put together, I think, over a year ago now.
Correct.
But to actually give some teeth to them in the special permit process of the neighborhood character special permit. The issue that I brought up at the subcommittee meeting is the concern is, and I think that you gentlemen can remember, last year, and I think it was a project on Westford Street that brought some focus, was they increased the lot area per dwelling unit, decreasing the density. What this ordinance is looking to do, or as it was proposed, and my feeling is we at least need to have an all-out discussion and debate, understanding what it would, the concession to a developer that wants to go that route is to increase the density or lower the lot area per dwelling unit. back to what it was prior to the changes that were adopted last year. And I think that's just important that we have that discussion, because the last thing I want to see even is a developer go through that process and even come before this board and we say, yeah, we like the design, but however, we want less density. Because what's being proposed is the underlying density, which would be by right, will actually be decreased. The lot area per dwelling unit will be increased. So the by right development would be a lower density. But to have them go through this process, if it's a density level we're still not comfortable with as a board, I think that discussion needs to take place. Why put something like that on the books and then you know, have an
Obviously,
issue with
hopefully
it?
they'll come out the subcommittee meeting,
Yep.
which we can discuss. I know, when they turned the matter over to you, Mr. Genman, obviously you, I think it was 20 past 6. Now, you could see all the councilors waiting at the door to come in. So I know you tried to be as brief as possible, and then they entertained Mr. Genman as quick as possible. But I know obviously it wanted more discussion.
Right, exactly.
And,
And why,
may I-
to credit the zoning subcommittee,
Right.
they recognize that it needed
so
additional
they,
discussion.
that's when they put it over till
Yeah,
April 3rd, okay.
Exactly.
May I just also briefly make a quick statement, I
Sure.
guess, just for other notes? Mr. Fischett is correct that there is the incorporation of a design review committee with the idea that you would be required, as part of the special permit process, to go before that design review committee to build at that lower density, or higher density, lower lot area per dwelling unit. The currently existing ordinance would not change very substantially at all. So a lot of the projects that already currently require a special permit review process at the existing, for example, 4,000 square feet per dwelling unit, minimum lot size requirement, would still require a special permit. Just in order to lower that number to, for example, 2,500 square feet per lot area per dwelling unit, you would be required to go through this design review committee, followed up with that other required special permit. It's just a step of a formal design review by the staff level, which it's been somewhat encouraged, or at least from a DPD perspective, we've heard many comments saying that, oh, it's always great when DPD can actually work on a project with an applicant and other professionals in the city as best as they can, and making it a formal process just makes it that much more of a serious process for the developers as well as for just the process itself.
So would this be for, like I said, I didn't catch all of it, I've been reading up on it lately, but on the special permit, would that be for all special permits, or just people who request to go before the design committee?
Just essentially, the special permits as they are today with the existing numbers, which were raised about roughly a year ago, are still in effect.
It's gonna be the highest standard.
It's going to
Before
be the
this board.
standard
Right.
before this board.
So this is creating
What would require the review by this new proposed board, this design review board, which is more of a staff level design review, would be you would be required to go before that board if you were requesting development at that higher density, lower lot area per dwelling unit. So it's really an option.
So they have
in
an
a
option,
way.
they could either come in before the whole board and request a special permit, that we just act on it.
At the existing numbers,
Right.
for example, the
So-
4,000 square
right.
feet per dwelling unit.
So if they wanted something at a lower number than what the special permit is,
Right.
with the special criteria, they could opt to go before the review committee.
Design review board.
Which would be planning development, I think it was a city engineer.
City engineer, building department, fire department, and the standards by which that board reviews projects would be those design standards that
And I
that the
noticed
city
that,
developed.
the part that I saw when Mr. Parekas answered some of the questions was, they didn't feel, and Mr. Broderick said, they weren't too concerned about the police department, but it was obviously concerned to get the fire department in, because sometimes you have the design review, everything's fine, and then we get the letters for the special permit where the fire department had some problem with the turnaround radius.
Exactly.
Or the fire lanes.
Correct.
So obviously you'd want their input, the sooner the better, is what I heard at the meeting.
It's in a way, it's because the applicant is requesting more units, we really want to make this a higher standard of a project
And that's-
and make it more of a formal review,
And
at least
that's
from a
not,
staff
and
perspective.
that's only to certain zones, I understand, correct?
Correct. That's only for primarily some of the projects that come before the
Mostly
board in
residential.
the traditional neighborhood zones and the residential townhouse projects, for example, multifamily townhouse projects. Those types of projects that primarily come in front of the board that do require that next level of planning or site planning review process. This just formalizes for projects that whereby the applicant is seeking a higher density, lower lot area per dwelling unit number. It just formalized that staff level design review before it goes through the formal site plan and special permit process in front of the board. So it
That's
still
basically an applic-
requires,
That's a decision by the applicant, which way they want to proceed.
correct, as I'm seeing it now, yes.
Because I know with the review committee, so the one question I had, which I know, I don't know if would answer, but we'll get to it in the future, would be, they go before the review committee, and they don't get approval there. And my understanding was that it needs the approval of that review committee and this board. So obviously, if it doesn't make it through that review committee, then it really wouldn't warrant come before us, because regardless of what we do, it's not get the approval anyways.
Well,
Because
it's,
what Mr. Broker said, Borrego said on the TV that night is, it needed approval of both boards to get approval to go forward. That's the way I understood it, but
I'd like to check on that.
and I know that was
Staff
just up for
level-
discussion, so I don't want to
Right.
pinpoint it down.
And
And I know he didn't have a chance to answer all the questions, so I
Right.
think that might be something we'll bring up to subcommittee.
Yeah,
It was
that's
just
definitely
that
something we can bring
thought
back
of
up.
quickly without being a chance to listen to everything, because they got cut short that night
Right.
for time, but.
Right.
Because
I-
obviously, and then what criteria, if you do that review and not go before the special permit, then is he just say, no, I want to go the other route, but that's the applicant's purview.
Right.
Okay.
And it still may require a special permit or a site plan by the planning board. It just may not
So
have
the
that
other
next
one is,
level of staff.
basically
level.
what I got out of it was a plan that they thought might work in a neighborhood, that they could get the impact from the input, I should say, from the review committee, and try to work something out, and then not come in as high as a special permit, and something that might work in a neighborhood that meets all the other, that meets the requirements that the city engineer would be looking for, the planning department would be looking for, the fire department would be looking for, and try to help some of those neighborhoods. They could use the relief that's existing in those neighborhoods now, to be consistent with those neighborhoods.
Right, and that's where the design review, not the design review, the guidelines booklet comes into play, because the design review would likely, the idea is that the city council or then the planning board would endorse this guidelines booklet, whereby that guidelines booklet sort of not dictates, but it guides the internal review process by the design review committee, and sort of lays out where a lot of the principles that the zoning is trying to incorporate, with the idea that infill development should be within the neighborhood, relate to the neighborhood, really benefit the neighborhood,
Right.
and the surrounding properties, and that's where that design review, that booklet comes into play.
Which would be helpful for the applicant if they chose that route.
Right.
To get that approval, come before us, that they know they have that approval, and then try to go with the less density in that area to come forward that option.
Right. And that's not to say that the board still doesn't, they still have site plan and special
Right.
permit review approvals and allowances to do what they see fit. So if there's a big concern that the board has that didn't come out through the internal staff design review process, the board can definitely express those concerns then. It doesn't change that part of the process.
Mr. Chairman, my concern, and I just wanted to, especially the zoning subcommittee and ultimately the council voting on it, is density has been such an issue
Right.
in the neighborhoods, and design is important, and we recognize that, you can do a lot with design, but, the last thing I would want to see us is go
Go backwards.
Yeah, exactly. And then all one sit there and say, how did this happen?
Right.
And then go back. As long as everybody, I think,
Yeah.
understands what the process would allow, and that, we're
Basically, you don't
comfortable with it.
want 2 amendments to the zoning code to bring us back to where we started from. In some particular area.
Right,
So
exactly.
obviously, with those issues on the burner, then that, obviously, those are, I believe would echo a lot of the concerns that most of the board members have. Okay. So that subcommittee meeting again will be on for April 3rd, 2007, here with the subcommittee. Saying that, does anybody else have any further comments? If not, we'll entertain them.
If
James,
I
you
may,
have one other question? I'm
briefly,
sorry.
yes.
I know you mentioned something earlier, I forgot what it was.
I went through, I had time this week to finally go through all of the application forms that the city currently has for the planning board. And I updated them with all the most recent changes regarding, for example, the adoption of 11.3.2A as part of the special permit criteria, some of the electronic filing that the city engineer's office is requesting. And I just like the blessing from the board to use those forms, and also I was hoping to propose to put a date stamp on those forms. For example, these forms were adopted on March 19th, 2007, so that we know whoever applies after that date uses the most up-to-date forms, and we don't get old copies of old forms. That way, it just clarifies that we're using the most up-to-date form. The information that is being requested is the exact information that the board is requesting. So I'd just like to get the blessing from the board and maybe a formal vote just to say, yes, please move forward. And I'll also post those on the website, and if the board would like to see those, I can definitely email them to you.
Sure.
I was thinking of printing them out, but it was almost there's a lot of paper involved, and many of the forms really didn't change that much, but there were minor nuances that have changed.
Any discussion on the forms, adopt the notice? I think with the new date would be helpful, obviously.
Yeah, the effective.
If I know once in a while, as we discussed, James, before, is somebody might come in who hasn't been before us for a little while and pulls the old form out of the drawer, come in tonight and start the count one.
Yeah, I'd have no problem, obviously, with that. I would suggest if you could email them to
Yes.
us, and if we had any comments or
good.
suggestions for them, we could add them as well, but I would have no issue with that, taking a vote that we adopt them immediately, subject to future change if we should need it.
Motion's made? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes yes, so we amend the forms. Any other matters before we entertain adjournment? Hearing none, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Second. We are adjourned. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell me one thing about
We'll talk about it.
tapes off. No. Huh?